Hello, everyone. In my previous videos, I've always been talking about how the US cannot invade Nigeria with their military forces. And in this video, I actually want to explain to us how they can actually deal with Nigeria and, and possibly how they're even dealing with Nigeria right now. In the grand theater of international relations, power is not a monolith, it is a duality. Now, on one side, we have potent power, which is the military tanks, the air carrier, the fighter jets, the bombs dropping all over borders, destructions of buildings, shooting into buildings, destroying things, landmines all over the place. Now, competent arsenals, military tanks, parading all over the place. Just like we watch in movies, understand? All those war action movies. That's what potent power gives you. That is one of the things the American government have. But it cannot work in Nigeria. Now, there's also another aspect called latent power. Latent power doesn't do what potent power does. Potent power is all about shooting and everything. No, latent power is very, very subtle. It is not forceful. It really penetrates a society, a civilization, and crushes it within. It crumbles people without them even knowing that they're being crumbled. It is about stopping trade routes. It's about stopping trade exchange. It's about stopping people from moving from one end to another end. It's about using your influence to tell another person not to help your enemy. That's what latent power also affords you. It's about that influence that you have to do things that you ordinarily wouldn't be able to do with your military minds. And America has it in their arsenal. Now, latent power whispers, while potent power shouts. But we also know that most times it's not about shouting. The one that whispers has actually brought down empires over and over again with its latent power. And that's what happens now, because that whisper, if time is not taken, that whisper begins to echo longer than necessary. It becomes a problem for Nigeria. And now you might be wondering, what does this got to do with Nigeria? And I will answer. When you know your military minds cannot give you the result that you're looking for, you have to pivot. You have to use everything within your means to get the result that you're looking for. And if you've done it in the past, you definitely can do it right now. And that is what the US, I presume, would actually use in this particular scenario. Part of the ways I speculate the US might actually use latent power in Nigeria is by starting with shaming and blaming, which they are doing right now. And shaming and blaming gets you one result. Shaming and blaming turns your people against you. It actually causes an uproar within your society that makes people begin to see the weaknesses they ordinarily would not have been able to notice in the first place. And that is what President Trump is doing to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, shaming and blaming Tinubu, making Tinubu look stupid before Nigeria. Now, another aspect of latent power is apart from shaming and blaming, is by trying to squeeze Nigeria economically, and which the American government have already started doing by tagging Nigeria, by labeling Nigeria to be a country of particular concern, CPC. If Nigeria becomes a country of particular concern, it gives them room to begin to squeeze Nigeria economically. Understand? So Nigerians' growth begins to shrink. The economy is already bad. Now imagine what more sanctions will do to the economy of Nigeria. And most of the aids we get from the US as a country, those aids also, they stop coming in. So there'll be sanctions, which is also part of this economic squeeze. There'll be sanctions, there'll be other threats to other nations that if they are doing business with Nigeria. Take, for instance, what they did to Iran. Iran is an oil exporting nation. But when there was a sanction on Iran, the US made it impossible for other nations to come and buy oil from Iran. They made it look like if you're buying oil from Iran, you're also an enemy of the US. So people withdrew from purchasing oil from Iran. I'm not saying that's what is going to happen, but those are the options within the latent power arsenal of the US. Another way that this powerful, in quotes, US government would want to use their latent power minds on Nigeria is this. They can not just by slapping sanctions, but they can make it almost impossible for Nigeria to borrow money. Nigeria is very notorious when it comes to borrowing. And Nigeria is also very notorious when it comes to not paying back her debts. So we always bank on debt forgiveness, this debt forgiveness, that, either with the IMF or with other international bodies. So the US can go to the IMF and also wait for us there. The advice I also have to give the US is this. People should be very careful about Nigeria. Nigeria is a very delicate state in Africa. Nigeria is more delicate than South Africa. And here is my reason. The farther you push Nigeria away from the US, the closer you push them into the arms of China, which is also a problem for the West. Should something be done about this? Of course, killing anybody is not good. But I think that is where President Trump would have to figure it out. How to deal with Nigeria without further driving Nigeria into the hands of China. How we can get the result we are looking for and stop the killings in Nigeria without further driving Nigeria into the hands of China. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to politics. It comes down to global politics, and countries would always look for what benefits them and not the other way around. Thank you very much.